Yeah.
That was going to say. Yes.
Okay, Parsha Shiur. So, Parsha's Vayeira, 3 offerings this evening. If you're listening online, please do email me and I'll send you the handout, j.golker@gmail.com. So, the first idea is on the opening pasuk. The pasuk says, Vayeira Elov Hashem be'elonim mamre v'hu yoshev pesach ha'ehel k'choim hayom. Now, interestingly, although we pronounce it v'hu yoshev, it's actually written Yud Shin Beis, which could be read Yoshav. So if you're the Golker and you're reading it Shabbos morning, you would be forgiven if you read it V'hu Yoshav, because there's no Vav there. And Rashi, of course, makes reference to this. Rashi says Yoshav Ksiv, even though we read it Yoshev, but actually is written Yud Shin Beis. Says Rashi, Bikesh Lamed, what is this alluding to? That Avram Avinu wanted to stand. No, you sit, Avram Avinu, V'ani e'emod, and I will stand. And this is a simon for your children, that in future, in all Botei Din, the Dayanim will be sitting, but I will stand in a Beis Din, but the Dayanim will be sitting. As it says, Elikim Nitzov Ba'adas Kel. Okay. Now, 2 questions, and this I saw in the Sefer Meshulchan Gevurah in the name of Rabbi Gurvitz, the Rosh Yeshiva in Gateshead, Avram's father. So, question number 1, in what way is Avram Avinu like a dayan in the Beis Din? For you sit down, and for all future Botei Din, the dayanim will be sitting and I will stand. We're equating the house of Avram Avinu in some way to like a Beis Din, where Avram should be sitting like the dayanim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll stand. In what way was there a Beis Din in the house of Avram, and was Avram like a dayan? What is that referring to? And third of all, very interesting question. We know there are 3 malachim, and each malach had a tafkid. Each one had a specific job. Says Rashi, a bit later on, the next box, V'hinei shleisha anoshim, echod levase esara, ve'echod lahapech chesadayim, ve'echod lerapeh savram. The 3 malachim. Number 1 was to tell Sarah the good news that she was going to have a child. Number 2 was to destroy Sodom. And number 3 was lerapeh Avraham, to heal Avraham. So a question which I never really thought of, but it's an obvious question. Why 2 of the 3 malachim, I can understand why they needed to go to the house of Avram, to tell Sarah the news and to be merapeh Avram, bikochelim. But the malach whose job was to be mahapech Sodom, to destroy Sodom, why didn't he just go straight to Sodom? He wanted the company, the other 2 malachim. It's an interesting observation. So Rabbi Gurvitz gave the following answer. V'nir Elohim, next box. Shegmar dina shel Sodom lahapech, the Gemar din of Sodom to be destroyed, lahoye ele bebeis shel Avram Avinu. The Gemar din, the verdict that Sodom was going to be destroyed, that verdict was issued in the house of Avram. Ketzad, how so? Dafka mikoach tov shel Avraham. It was because of the goodness, the kindness of Avraham, v'hafrazoso, and his generosity, his in b'midas hachesed, klapei malachim. In other words, it was the contrast when the Malachim came and saw the generosity, the hachnosas orchim of Avram Avinu, that he was chalashing to invite people in. Despite it being in pain, he was sitting there, kachom hayoim, waiting, distressed that there were no people passing. Despite being in pain and the lavishness of their generosity, and then you go to Sodom and you see the hostility to Chesed. You see people how they're punished for taking in people, and Lot's wife, Rashi brings salt as well. You want to give them on their food. It was such a contrast that it was actually the contrast which was the trigger, if you like, of the Gemar Din against Sodom. And indeed, the Sefarno says exactly that point. Says the Sefarno, Vayakumu misham ha'anoshim, says the Sefarno, Panu mibeis ha'chesed, they went from the house of Chesed, Vayashkifu, hashkaf al, it's a sort of a negative perspective, al pnei Sodom, she'hefech beis shel Avram, which was the opposite of the house of Sodom. So again, the Sefarno is explaining that the Psukim are highlighting the contrast of the 2 homes. And continues the Shulchan Gevurah, have omer, and therefore you could say, shehalichas hamalachim lahafech Sodom ba'a mitoich beis Avram. The reason why the Malachim went to Sodom was because they visited the house of Avram Avinu. Lachein Hashem nitzav olav, and therefore the house of Avram became almost like a Beis Din Do we destroy Sodom? Do we not destroy Sodom? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is standing over this Beis Din, like with every Beis Din. Now we understand. They came to Avram, A, to tell Sarah the good news, B, to give her a food to Avram. And the third Malach came because there was a din Torah going on in the house of Avram Avinu, as it were, because the only reason why Sodom was destroyed is because it was the contrast of seeing the wonderful chesed in the house of Avram. Shebol Beis Din Avram. Yeah.
Avram could have been the third. Why did we need three malach?
I needed the third Malach he was there to witness the verdict and then do his job. But if for whatever reason the chesed of Avram was short or he didn't see enough of a contrast, then you're right, the Malach would say, no, we can go home. But the verdict was only issued in the house of Avram because it sort of highlighted the contrast of the two. Okay, that's Rabbi Gurvitz on the beginning of the Parsha. Now, I came across something else. Rabbi Emmanuel Bernstein's got this new sefer, which is really a delight to go through. And he mentioned something, I can't remember the name of the sefer he quoted, but whoever it was, I looked for it on the Eitz HaChochma, I couldn't find it. But he quoted something very, very interesting in the name of the Vilna Garden. And then I saw it in a few other Sfarim on the Eitz HaChochma. But it's the same idea, very, very interesting idea. The Pasuk says that Avram went and davened for Sodom. Vayan Avraham vayome hine nohalti ledaber Hashem v'anoichi ofar v'efer. So Avraham Avinu says, Anoichi ofar v'efer. How do we normally understand that? Says Avraham Avinu, I am like dust and I'm like ash. So normally it's understood to mean that it's a sign of humility, self-deprecating. Although I am like dust and ashes, I'm worthless, but I still would like to daven for them. That's sort of his hakdama to his tefillah. Rashi says a slightly different pshat, but I suppose it's on a similar line. V'anoichi ofar v'efer, says Rashi, v'kva ho yisiroyu lios ofar alidei hamalachim. I was very close to being ofar, to being dust because of the malachim, i.e. the 4 kings against the 5 kings. I had to go and fight against the 4 kings and engage in battle with them. That was a dangerous mission, like we discussed last week. And I was close to being pulverized. So I would have been dust. Ve'efer is a reference to Nimrod. He could have been ash because of Nimrod. Lulei rachamecha she'omdu li, because that's the kivshan ha'ish. In last, not reference in the Torah, but of course Chazal said this took place in last week's Parsha, that he was thrown into the kivshan ha'ish by Nimrod, that were it not for your chesed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I would be offer, because I would have been obliterated by the 4 malachim, and I would have been transformed into ash because of the kivshan ha'ish also in last week. Okay, so therefore, Anoichi offer ve'efer, were it not for your chesed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but please hear me. He then quotes something fascinating, again in the name of the Vilna Gaon. Totally different pshat. We know that on Sukkot, the 7 days of Sukkot, there are lots of karbonos going on. There are 13 parim which are brought on day 1, 12 on the next day, 11 going down to 7 on the last day, which totals 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, total 70. Says Rashi there in Parshas Pinchas, Pari HaChog, Shivim Heim Keneged Shivim Ha'umos. The 70 parim which are brought over the course of the 7 days of Sukkot correspond to the 70 nations of the world, because they get benefit from there being a Beis HaMikdash, and this protects them, and it's a good thing for the Umas Ha'olam. The 70 karbonos, the 70 parim, represent the Shivim Ha'umos. Shmini Atzeres, the pasuk says, "Bayom Shmini Atzeres Tilachem, Kol Melech Zavodu Lo Yisasu, V'Hikravtem Oile Ishe Reach Nechach Lashem Parechod." There's only one. What is that one par? Says Rashi over there, Keneged Yisrael. The one par on Shmini Atzeres after the 70 bulls of Sukkot representing the Umas Ha'olam is corresponding to Klal Yisrael. And Rashi famously says there, Hisakvu li ma'at oid, that he has a special connection, a special relationship with Klal Yisrael. Stay a little longer. V'loshen chiba huzeh, it's a term of endearment. Kabonim haniftarim me'avim, like children who are departing from their parents. V'oim Elohem kosher, like pridaschem ikvu yom echad. Stay for another day. Okay, that's the famous Rashi in Parshas Pinchas. Says the Vilna Gaon, amazing. Anoichi ofar v'efer. Ofar spells ayin par, 70 cows. Efer is aleph par. What Avram Avinu is saying, I wear 2 hats. I am, my name was changed from Avram to Avraham, the Av Hamoin Goyim. I'm the father of mankind. So I represent the 70 Umos, but I'm also the father of Klal Yisrael. And therefore, Anochi Ofar Ve'efer, Anochi Ayin Par, Anochi Aleph Par. I am the father of all nations, and I'm also the father of Klal Yisrael, and I'm coming to you wearing both of those hats. I'm davening for Sodom, that's part of my job. I sort of embody both exactly that message. And therefore, that was his Hagdama to his Tefillah. I represent both Anochi Ofar Ve'efer. Fantastic insights. Okay, let's move on. Now, the next idea, I came across it last year. I put it away with my notes to say it again this year. It's again a very beautiful insight. In the name of Rabbi Tzvi Bergman. Rabbi Tzvi Bergman, in his Sefer Shiur, he's the son-in-law of Reb Shach, and he's got a lovely Sefer on Chumash, and he says a fabulous idea. The Pasuk says in Parsha's Vayeira, "Vayashkem Avram ba'boiker." Avram Avinu got up early in the morning, "El hamakom asher omad sham es pnei Hashem." And he went to the place where he had davened previously, we understand it to mean. And this, by the way, is the source. This is that Avram davened Shacharis, and the Gemara in Brachos Vav Amud Beis tells us that this is a source for another halacha. If you take a look at the Gemara in Brachos Vav Amud Beis, look at the next box. Amar Rabbi Chelba Amar Rav Huna. Kol hakoveya makom l'tfilasoi. Anyone who fixes a place for his davening, Elokei Avraham be'ezrei. The God of Avraham will come to his help. Or cheshames. And when a person who fixes a place for his tefillah dies, Omrim lo, we say about him, E onov, what a humble person. E chosid, what a pious person. Mitalmidav shel Avram Avinu. He's a student of Avram Avinu. V'Avram Avinu minolan dekavah makom. How do we know that Avram Avinu was kaveh makom? Tichsiv vayashkem Avram baboike el makom asher amad sham. This pasuk in this week's parsha. So you see that Avram Avinu went back to the same place. Ve'ein amida letfilah. It's a reference to tefillah as it says vayamed pinchas ve'ipalal. Good. So there's a halacha that a person should be kaveh makom letfilasai. Now, where does it refer to, by the way? So the Rishonim discuss that, and it's different interpretations are given. The Rabbeinu Yonah says it refers to when you daven at home. When you daven at home, you should have a fixed place to daven. Don't daven in different places. You should have one seat, one corner, one place where you daven. The other Rishonim says it refers to at home and at shul, and it's a reference to A, the shul, don't shul hop, and B, in that shul have a fixed place. What's the svara? Why should you be kaveh makom? So some say it's a parallel to the karbonos. Just like the karbonos, they're very specific. It's very scientific where each carbon has got to be offered up. Well, so too, davening is in lieu of karbonos, and therefore they need a fixed place. Others say it's nothing mystical, but it just helps concentration. We've all been there. If you're a guest in another shul, the first 10 minutes you're looking around. I didn't know he davens here. Yeah, I didn't know. Oh my gosh, that's an interesting mark on the wall. And the crack in the seat in front is fascinating, and it's very distracting. If you fix a place and you always have daven in the same place, I guess it just helps concentration. There are less distractions. That's what Mefarshim say. Now, the question is this though. I can understand the importance of being kaveh makom l'tfilasai, but why is it referred back to Avram Avinu? Why does the Gemara say, Kol hakaveh makom l'tfilasai elokei Avraham be'ezrei? It's the God of Avraham who comes to his help, not Yitzchak, not Yaakov. And we say about him, Ei onov, Ei chosid. Wherein lies the humility? What is going on? So, the Shari Oira, Rabbi Tzvi Bergman, says the following amazing pshat. We know there is a famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, in the 5th parak, contrasts the Talmidim of Avraham Avinu and Bilam. The Pasuk says, the Mishnah says, Anyone who has the following attributes is a Talmid of Avraham. All aspects of humility. If he's arrogant, he's Talmid Shel Bilam Harasha, etc., etc. That's the famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Says the Shiur. Fascinating. But Parsha's Bolok, when Balak went to try and curse Klal Yisrael, he tried to offer up various offerings. He would offer up the offering, and from that vantage point, he would go and curse the Jewish people. And from there, he would build 7 mizbechos, etc. So when he saw that it didn't work, that his tefillahs weren't answered, v'lo kilel es Yisrael, and he was unable to curse the Jewish people, hechelef es hamokum. What did he do? He went elsewhere. As it says, he's going to try a different place. And then it didn't work, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wasn't happy with him. Every time he didn't succeed, he went to a different place. Next paragraph. So you see, he changed his location several times. And he attributed the lack of his success, not that he was unsuccessful, it's just that he was in the wrong place. From that place, he says the problem is not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to curse Klal Yisrael, but the place is not auspicious for it. Let me try a different place, but the guilt doesn't lie with me. Omnom, last paragraph. Even though Avram Avinu tried and ultimately did not succeed when he davened for Sodom, he went from 50 all the way down to 10. When he was finished, the next day, he went again to daven Shachris the next day where? To the same place. And he was the opposite of Bilam. He didn't attribute the lack of success to his place. He went back to the same place. Let me give you a mashal as to what he's saying. Imagine in school, you've got a teacher, and the teacher walks into the staff room after a very challenging lesson. And there's one of 2 ways they could walk into the staff room. Let's say it's a she. She comes into the staff room and she says, they are impossible. They are unteachable. Impossible. And you can hear frustration, a disaster lesson. That's one approach. Alternatively, she could say, they are a very challenging class and I'm not engaging them. I need to discuss with my colleagues how to better engage them, different the techniques, different management techniques in the classroom, who knows what. What's the difference between the 2? The first one smacks of arrogance. In other words, I'm a good teacher, the kids are just not listening, they're not interested. The second is that maybe the problem is within. Maybe I need to have a different approach over here, I need to try something else. It's the difference between arrogance and humility. Bilam, he goes to the place to try and curse Klal Yisrael. It doesn't work. So he says, the problem's not with me. I've got tremendous powers to curse. It must be that the place is not right. I'll go somewhere else. Avram Avinu, if you think about it, he davened for Sodom, and he didn't succeed. His tefillah didn't work. And yet, he goes back to the same place because he looks within and he doesn't try and attribute blame elsewhere. Now, we understand the Gemara. It's Dafka, the God of Avram, who comes to his help, because going back to the same place day in, day out is a sign of tremendous humility. You're attributing any lack of success to yourself. Maybe I need to improve my tefillah, I need to daven better, I need to focus better. That's what we're saying. That's the connection between Kaveh Mokum and Tefillah and humility. Amazing, a beautiful insight of Meir Tzvi Bergman. So there we have 3 ideas. 3 ideas. The first idea, in what way does Rashi equate that Avram's house was like a Beis Din, and why did the 3rd Malach have to go to the house of Avram and Sarah? You could have gone straight to Sodom. The teretz is the house of Avram was treated as a Beis Din, and therefore that it was the Gemar Din, the verdict takes place there because it was the contrast of the 2 homes that triggered the destruction of Sodom. The next thing was davening for Sodom, that amazing insights in the name of the Vilna Gaon, Anochi Ofar Va'efer, that I represent the 70 nations, the one nation, and it's in that capacity that I'm davening on behalf of Sodom. And then this lovely idea of Me'er Tzvi Bergen, that what is the connection between Kol HaKaveh, Mokum Tefillosei, and humility, which is based on a pasuk in this week's Parsha. The teretz is that going back to the same place is an expression of a person's humility. He's not pointing fingers elsewhere, but he's looking within. And that is really a sign of a person who is humble and therefore goes back to the same place to daven. Okay, we'll leave it there.